Welcome to Art with Mackenzie. Thanks for being here so we can do some art together. We are going to make something awesome. Be sure to check out my website and Etsy page for all kinds of cool art for your home. And welcome back. Today we are going to work more on our dinosaur and get her looking better. And that's what we're going to be doing from here on out. If you already have your dinosaur made and you followed me this far, then the rest of everything we'll be doing is just making our dinosaur better. So here in edit mode, we are going to look at the vertices that we have so far, and you'll see in the leg that there are more vertices in the body. Hopefully yours looks the same. We're looking at where we stretched out a little bit. So when you are sculpting and molding, be mindful that when you use your grab tool, that you are expanding the vertices in between other vertices to get that surface. But it's nothing to worry about because we can fix that later. It's just something to be mindful of. And we're going to be looking at our arm. Going to go into X-ray view, and to grab just the arm, right now we have select box. So when you select anything in X-ray, you'll be selecting everything behind it. But we want to add vertices to just the arm. So when you hold down on select box, you'll get a sub menu that has all these different options for you. There's select lasso, select circle, select box, and tweak. We're going to go with select circle. And when you hold down the left mouse button and go across your model, you're only going to select what the circle goes over. And remember, in X-ray it will select everything behind it. So one option is to be out of X-ray and select one face, but as you see, the vertices behind it aren't selected, so you'd have to rotate around the whole model to select everything you want. I stay in X-ray and I just carefully select everything that I need. And as you see, we have nothing selected on the body, nothing selected behind it. But we want to select just these on the arm because this is where more detail is going to be. So we're going to subdivide again, and you can do that in the Edge menu or your Quick Link. I hope you have it in your Quick Link because we've used it a lot so far. And once it's subdivided, you'll see that it looks like the leg. There are a lot of vertices selected, and this gives you more areas to smooth everything out and manipulate and add detail to. And in object mode, I noticed we were still in shade smooth. We want to keep this in shade flat. So there's shade smooth. And it smooths out all of your vertices for you through the program, and we don't want that. We want to see exactly where our faces are and how sharp they are, because if you go to print this out later, it will print those sharp surfaces. And as you see in the shade flat on her foot where it was extended earlier in the edit mode, you can see it, the faces there looking kind of rough. So we're going to go into sculpt, and the first thing we're going to do is just start smoothing everything out a little bit and be mindful of the area where you have that transition between a lot of vertices to not so many. And hold down shift to smooth everything out, and be mindful that you don't over smooth like that. If you do, Control Z is your friend. So get a smaller cursor and get to it, smoothing nice and easy, little bits at a time. We want to get those raggedy square fingers into beautiful round fingers, because that's the whole point of sculpting, to get things from raggedy to smooth and beautiful. Now, I like to use draw to do this because I can start adding some muscle. So if you see part of your sculpt that needs a little bit more beef to it, staying on using your draw tool, you can smooth and add to your sculpt as you go. And we are still in mirror mode. So everything that you do to one side of your sculpt is going to affect the other side. We're going to change that up here in just a little bit. And I want to see if there's enough vertices to smooth everything out. But I'm going to select everything in just the hand. Subdivide to get more vertices so I can make this even smoother. And as you smooth, you will see that it does, in fact, get a lot smoother. And you can subdivide as many times as you want, as your system allows. We're doing it in stages because we don't want to add too many polygons right off the bat to our sculpt. So I like to subdivide, do a little sculpting, get it closer to where I want, and then subdivide again, do some more sculpting, and just continue that process. Because it's easier on my system, should be easier on yours, and we still get the same effect. So I'm just going to fatten out her fingers, get little meaty pads on there. And again, this is still just the draw tool. And I'm not worried about precision right now because we're still working on base shapes. So get your fingers nice and fat and plump. They are very strong fingers to hold prey. And with your draw tool, you'll see that you're adding more meat with a lot more vertices that you had when you subdivide. And just play with it. Have fun. That's what art is about. It's about having fun. Because I'm not doing anything special here. Okay, so we're going to add claws to her hands, and I'm going to use her toe claws. So I'm going to click on one, hit Shift D, and then start hitting a G and an axis to move it exactly where I want. So I hit GY, GX, and now I hit RZ to rotate. And then I'm going to hit R again to rotate it backwards and upside down. S to scale, and GX to move along the x-axis. And I like moving along the axes just because it gives me a lot more control at first. And then when I get it close, I just hit G to move it where I need. And her fingers are going to be a little bit thinner than her toes, so I scale it on the x-axis to thin up the claw. And I get it to about the size that I want, something that looks right. And I look at it compared to the rest of her body, and I go from there. If yours needs to be bigger or smaller, just adjust it as you want. Okay. And over here in the upper right hand menu, we're going to start naming things again, so we know what every part is. So make sure you name all your objects. So I hit Shift D and move the claw over. Now we have a second claw. So I'll grab the grab brush, the grab tool, and I'll start moving in the sculpt to fit around our new claw. And just little bits at a time, nothing too fancy, no big movements. And I look at her from different angles, and she looks good. So again, if you're happy with your dinosaur, you can leave her as B. We are going to keep going forward and adding more detail. So we're going to work on the head. Check out our triangle count on everything. We will subdivide the entire body. And we'll see that we are still in mirror mode. And I think it's probably about time that we take that off. And just to check that you're on mirror, grab a vertex and move it around, and you'll see, yeah, that's on mirror mode. So we're going to apply the mirror, and we're going to go back to edit, and when you pull out, you'll see both sides, and that is because in our mirror submenu, we still have that X checked. So if you pull out a vertex and it's just on one side, double check to make sure that your mirror submenu is clicked, because if you are sculpting and you're sculpting just one side of the body and then you look at the other side and you realize you've done nothing, it is very frustrating. So it's very important to make sure that that is always checked. But with the mirror modifier finally applied, we can start sculpting on her whole body, and using this sub mirror, we can smooth out this hard line along her spine. And if you had done this with just the mirror modifier added, it would have given us a hard line, and that's what we didn't want. And be careful when you smooth, because you can, like you just saw with the tail, like totally ruin your sculpt. But again, that's what Control Z is for, so you can undo anything you just did. And with all these new vertices that we just added with the most recent subdivide, as always, we're going to go through and we're going to smooth out just the rest of her body, so we can start seeing how we want her to look for the final smooth out how we want her to look when she's done. That sounds right. So every time you subdivide, smooth out your model. Be careful not to smooth out anything on the inside of her mouth. We're going to do a lot of work inside that separately, and my goal is to print out our dinosaur. And if you do a lot of work on the inside of the mouth, you are going to add a lot of complications later. So the more simple her mouth is on the inside, the easier it is going to be for prints, because I will print her teeth and head separately for casting. And as you see, when you subdivide and go over something that's already been subdivided a lot and you smooth things out, you'll have less drastic changes when you smooth it, because there are more vertices, more polygons to smooth out. So if you subdivided this 10 times, it would be a lot harder to smooth, because there are 10 times as many faces for you to play with. So that's why I do it after every subdivide. Manipulate my sculpt and move her where I want her to be. Alright, when you smooth things out, you are kind of shrinking your whole model. So go back into your profile view, bring up your reference photo, and take your time and grab everything on the topmost part of your sculpt and align it with your reference photo. Make sure you're grabbing really close to the bottom, because if you're grabbing the side and bringing it down, it's going to look awful. And the parts you can't see that are hidden by her legs and arms, just eyeball it the way I did. It doesn't have to be perfect, because you're going to fix it later. And we'll go over it, tap smooth, and just take a gander. Okay, so I've been promising you the fun part, and we are at it. We're going to grab the select box, grab her head, and we're going to subdivide her head. The last thing we'll be doing today is adding some detail to her face and giving her some personality. Grab her head, anywhere to her neck is fine. Hit subdivide and subdivide her head to give us a lot more surfaces to play with. And you see it more than doubles our triangles. And we'll go into sculpt. And always make sure that the X mirror is checked. So we will smooth out real fast. Drop our cursor down a little smaller. And just do a quick smooth of her entire face on the outside. Again, leave the inside of her mouth alone. We will work on that a little bit later. Smooth out all of her neck. Like any face that you see, just smooth out for now. And that'll let you see what you're working with. So we'll smooth, smooth, smooth. Smooth, smooth, smooth. I do have the grab tool from last time still selected. It doesn't matter, because as long as you hold down shift on any tool, it will smooth out your model. Okay, so we're going to use the grab brush and we're going to start molding her face, bringing out her cheeks, get her brows going, fatten up all around her head, and we're going to start shaping her to our imagination. Shape it any way you want. So we'll talk about the tools for a second. Here I grab and smooth out, and I don't like it, so I'm going to go to draw. And in the upper left hand part of your screen, you'll have your radius and your strength. And you can adjust that using the open bracket and close bracket on your keyboard. You use this little button right here is for pen strength. And if you don't have a Wacom pen, then it'll just go based off what the numeric value is in that box. And here there is a positive and negative. One means that you will add to your model, the other one means you will take away. So here it adds, and here it takes away. So that's what positive and negative mean. Or to do the opposite, you can hold down Control, because as you see we have it on positive now, but I'm taking away from the model. And I do that by holding down Control. and that's a good shortcut to use, is that control button, because you don't have to go back and forth between adding to your model and taking away. Just hold down control to take away and have at it by not holding it. So we're going to be adding to her skull. I like to add and then smooth, add and then smooth, because it slowly builds up on our model, just like you would with clay. You don't want to just throw a whole chunk of clay onto your sculpt. You want to add a little bit, work it out, add a little bit, and work it out. And that's what we're doing here. So we're using the draw tool to add where we want more detail, and just have fun with it. I can't really tell you how to do it. Just go with it and see what you can do, because that's basically what I do with all of my sculpts. I'm just having fun and working it and seeing what looks right. And the more you do it, the easier it'll get, the better your artist eye will be. I mean, I've been playing with dinosaurs for way too long, so I generally know how I like mine to look. And we'll go into edit mode, and we'll take another look, and you can see these faces are expanding. So remember that on the foot, how we expanded as we dragged out part of the foot. The same works with the draw tool. When you add, you're expanding those faces. You're not adding any vertices to it, but we will later. But right now, with just a regular draw tool, you're not adding or taking away any polys. You're just manipulating what's already there, and that's why we've been subdividing so much. Around the eye, build up her eyelid. Then I take my grab tool and I kind of finagle it into the shape that I want. It will hide inside of the eyeball, so be aware of that, because your eyeball is not part of your dinosaur model yet. It is its own separate thing. But I'd say that's a pretty good stopping point. She doesn't look good. There's always an ugly step, and that's where we're at. So trust the process, and we'll work on her more next time. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe, follow along. I'll be posting these about once a week. Check out my other videos on making teeth and claws if you haven't already. And I had fun doing art with you. I'll see you next time.